Hello, friends. In the last couple of weeks, I heard a certain phrase, likely between 50 and 100 times. I saw big graphics posted with the phrase and pictures and names of many men and women associated with the phrase. I chuckled each time I heard it. It was like someone put out a nationwide memo for all their friends to parrot the same phrase over and over again, trying, I think, to cause a snowball effect. They thought that if enough people stated the phrase enough times, then more people that heard the phrase would think negatively about the people in question. With a grin, I went back to Dee a couple of times in her office and asked her the phrase. Here it is. I said, "Honey, are you an election denier?" Both times she smiled but shooed me away. I'll bet you think this post is going to be about the elections 2 days ago. I'm as guilty as anyone of clinging to hope that our country will turn in a more conservative direction. One where the limbs of babies aren't torn apart piece by piece in the mother's womb. Abortion, in my opinion, is a barbaric practice, but that's a topic for another day, likely not associated with my Soul Winners Are Us website. Welcome to the Soul Winners Are Us website. Remember again what Jesus said in Matthew 4:19. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men. The title of my post today is, Are You an Election Denier? And it's not at all about the elections 2 days ago. It's about an election that is exponentially more important. There are 17 New Testament Bible passages where the words elect or election are used. Why in the world does the Bible talk about election so many times? The writers were surely not talking about political elections or elected officials. 7 of those first references to election came from Jesus himself. The other 10 were from the apostles Paul, Peter, and John. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines election as the following. Number 1, the act of being carefully selected or chosen for an office or position. Number 2, chosen for salvation through divine mercy. In a political election, people casting votes choose representatives for offices or positions. The election in the Bible, however, is where people are chosen by God to be His representatives. To say that God does the choosing doesn't mean that people can't influence God to choose them for salvation. God isn't up in heaven pulling strings so that certain people are chosen and others aren't chosen. He does, however, know the end from the beginning. Jesus knew that Judas was the one going to betray him. I don't think that means that Jesus wouldn't have relented and chosen or elected Judas if he had repented and had some inclination toward sincerely following Jesus. Jesus knew that Judas was and was going to continue to be an election denier. Judas wasn't willing to cry out to God to be elected by him. In the Old Testament, Cain was despondent and very angry after Abel's sacrifice was more acceptable than his own. In Genesis 4, 6, and 7, God told Cain, "Why are you furious? And why do you look despondent? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." God was telling Cain, in essence, that he was ready and waiting for Cain to repent and turn toward him. God was clearly saying to Cain, don't be an election denier. God also doesn't want any of us to be election deniers, but acceptors of his election. The most impactful verse to me about the wonder of being an election acceptor and not an election denier is what Jesus said in the following verses of Matthew 24:31. Jesus said, "He," which means God, "will send out his angels with a loud trumpet, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other." So I want to be a part of the elect of Jesus who continues to follow him and not be a denier of him. The reason is that I want very much to be among the many called up in the sky to meet Jesus in the air. Until I see you next time, keep sharing the wonderful love of Jesus.